What is up, everyone? Hey, welcome to Real Life. Whether you are in the room or you're watching online or you're in the amphitheater, man, I'm so glad we get to spend time together. My name is Jake, and I get the privilege of being the next lead pastor here at Real Life, and our family is so over the moon about this opportunity. And we have been praying for this day, but we've also been praying for the years to come as we begin this journey together. And we cannot wait to see what God does in your life and in the life of your family and friends. So honored, so grateful. Before I jump into the message today, I want to take a moment to thank a couple groups of people. And when I ask you to, I'd love for you to put your hands together and celebrate them with me. The first one is the group that is called the Leadership Board here at Real Life. You may not know, but there is a small group of high caliber and high talent, but even more so high character and high integrity leaders that have led this place so well for the last 24 years. And they love you. They are proud of you. They brag on you all the time. And they have led through this transition season so well and cared for our family and cannot wait to see what God is about to do next. So will you join me in thanking the leadership board here at Real Life? Man, such a big deal. The second group I want to thank are my two predecessors, two guys that you know and love well, guys by the name of Rusty George and Mike Bro. Absolutely. If you've been around Real Life for a while, then you got to sit under Rusty's leadership for over 20 years when I want you to know that you were spoiled. All right, Rusty's the best. He is uniquely equipped to lead Real Life to become the beacon of hope that it has been in the Santa Clarita Valley, and we are so grateful for the way he led. I'm grateful for the position he left it in. I mean, I have friends in ministry all over the place, and when they tell me the stories of what they walked into, I feel spoiled walking in to what I get to walk into, and I'm grateful for him. Also grateful for Mike Bro, who has been our interim pastor for the last 9 months. Mike is someone that doesn't just show up and teach and leave, but he loves you and he knows your stories, and he will continue being part of the teaching rotation. In fact, you'll get a chance to thank him in person here in a few weeks. But for right now, we put your hands together to help me celebrate Rusty and Mike. And then finally, I want to take a moment to thank the Real Life staff and leaders here. Transitions like this can go a number of different ways, but can I just try to describe to you what the last year has been like here at Real Life? In the last year, there are 1,244 more people on a weekly average engaging at Real Life in person and online. That's wild, 1,244. This summer, we sent 158 kids to summer camp, and get this, in the last year, we have baptized 558 people. That's insane, truly insane. And a lot of that has to do with the tireless effort of the staff and of the leaders here, and I'm so grateful to now be on their team. And so thank you for allowing our family to be a part of this church family. We're excited for the years to come. And on this first official weekend together, I thought I would try to choose a message that would apply to absolutely everyone. And so this means that no matter how old you are, how much school you had, how much money you make, how long you've been following Jesus, or even if you are following Jesus at all. In fact, if you're here today and you would not even consider yourself a follower of Jesus, this message is still for you. What we are going to collectively acknowledge is that this life that you and I are living is a limited time opportunity, and we want to squeeze as much purpose out of it as we possibly can. And in order to discover that idea, we are going to be hanging out in a book of the Bible called James. And so if you have a Bible or a Bible app and you want to hang out, I'll give you a head start. And we are going to be in James, specifically in chapter 4. And in order for this to fully sink into our heads and our hearts, periodically throughout our time together, I'm going to ask you to read a verse off of the screen behind me so that we can hear ourselves say it, and it can sink into our heads and into our hearts. So no matter where you're watching, whether you're inside, whether you're outside, online, I want you to read these words out loud. Now, full disclosure, I actually don't like when preachers make me talk during the message, but that's exactly what I'm asking you to do, okay? So here we go. We're going to do it. You're going to have a better attitude than I do. Here we go. Psalm 90, verse 12. Read this with me. Teach us to number our days that we may gain a heart of wisdom. Very good. You sounded great. All right, we're going to do that a few more times together. Today, we are going to operate under a common assumption, and that is that we only live once on this earth. You and I. Now, I know that there are rumors of a reincarnated round 2 or 3, but there is no biblical evidence for that. And so we are going to operate under the assumption that this is the one and only shot that we get at this life. And even though I bet we have 100% agreement around that truth, you and I are still experts at wasting time, aren't we? I mean, it feels like we invent a new way of wasting time on a weekly basis. And before I list off a few examples of the ways that we waste time, I want you to know I'm not talking at you. I am talking to you. I've participated in all of these. But the first one we probably should acknowledge, which might be the most prevalent these days, is social media. All right? Social media can be a lot of fun. It can also be a waste of time. I'm talking about YouTube and Instagram and Facebook and X and TikTok and Snapchat and Reddit and Nextdoor, and then that platform that everyone under the age of 20 is on, but we just haven't found out about yet. Okay, that is the list of social media. Now, one survey recently estimated that the average American spends 870 hours on social media a year. That is 2.5 hours a day. That is 22 work weeks a year. Now, some of you hear that number and you think, man, that is a lot of time to be on social media. And then others of you are thinking, I think I spend more time than that on social media. I might be part of the problem. It can be a lot of fun. It can also be a waste of time. What about fantasy sports? Right? What about fantasy sports? Ladies, don't elbow your man in the rib too hard on this one. He's probably preparing for the draft at this very moment. And if you are not familiar with the concept of fantasy sports, let me try to describe it this way. It's when you get together with your real friends to draft a fake team of real players. You manage a fake budget, engage in fake trade talks, play in fake games that result in fake standings so that you can play in the fake championship. But if you don't stop talking to your real girlfriend about your fake league, she is really going to break up with you, all right? That's basically the definition of fantasy sports. It can be a lot of fun. It can also be a waste of time. Or what about one of our favorites, reality TV? Who doesn't love a good episode of Survivor or The Masked Singer or Love is Blind? I mean, what says reality more than marrying someone that you've literally never seen before? That sounds real to me. But I gotta say, the granddaddy of them all has to be the Bachelor and Bachelorette franchise. Any fans of that here? It's a safe place, all right? You can be honest, it's fine. And if somehow you have avoided the whole setup of this franchise, one person simultaneously dates 30 other people at the exact same time. But do not worry, because they are here for the right reasons, all right? Don't worry about it. Surprisingly, for a show that's been on air for so long, it has resulted in very few healthy couples. I don't know why. That's so weird. Now, I got a confession to make. One year, my wife roped me into watching a season of The Bachelor with her. And I wasn't just going to sit there and watch it. So I finagled all of my friends to create a Bachelor fantasy league, all right? We took one waste of time, combined it with another waste of time, and made a mega waste of time. We got together and watched the premiere, and then we watched the episode, and then we drafted the girls that we thought would make it to the end. And at this point, I feel like maybe you're losing confidence in me as your new lead pastor. Probably rightfully so. It now feels like a really good time for us to read out loud our key verse together. Psalm 90, verse 12. Read it out loud. Teach us to number our days that we may gain a heart of wisdom. What I can guarantee is that a Bachelor fantasy league is not a heart of wisdom. Now, the person that wrote those words that you and I just read together was a guy named Moses. And if you've ever read much of the Bible, especially the Old Testament, then you know that Moses was a really big deal. He was born to this lower class family, but then he was raised in a royal palace. He was a fugitive from the law. He was a shepherd. He led millions of people through the wilderness. He experienced it all, the highs and the lows. He saw it all. He did it all. And when he wrote those words, his assumption is that if you and I really knew, if we knew the exact number of days that we had left, imagine every day you show up for work, every day you go to school, every day that you opened that phone, there was a running tally, and every time you saw it, there was one less digit. If you and I knew the exact number of days that we had left, there is no way we would ever want to waste it. And so we need to acknowledge a few realities collectively together today, and the first one is this: life is shorter than we think. Life is shorter than we think. Do you remember those milestone birthdays that you would look forward to as a kid? You couldn't wait to turn this age because of its significance. You couldn't wait to turn 6 so that finally you could go to school like all of your siblings, or you couldn't wait to turn 13 because then you weren't a kid anymore, you were a teenager. Couldn't wait to turn 16 to get your driver's license. Couldn't wait to turn 21 for no particular reason. I don't really know what you were excited about. But basically, after you turn 21, you just stop acknowledging your age altogether because it feels like life just goes faster and faster and faster. And in James chapter 4, he is going to provide us some perspective about our experience, and hopefully it'll change the way that we live. Look at how James describes it. James chapter 4, verse 13, he says, "Now listen, you who say today or tomorrow we'll go to this or that city, spend a year there, carry on business, and make money. Well, you don't even know what will happen tomorrow. What is your life? You're a mist that appears for a little while and then vanishes. Instead, you ought to say, if it's the Lord's will, we will live and do this or that. As it is, you boast in your arrogant schemes. All such boasting is evil. If anyone then knows the good they ought to do and doesn't do it, it is sin for them." So our author James here, he's writing to this group that's primarily business-minded. And it sounds like that week they had done one of those executive retreats where they exited with a 5 and 10 and 20-year plan for the rest of their life. And it sounds like this. This is the plan they came up with. They said, we're going to move, probably from California to Texas, and then we are going to start a new business, and then we're going to make as much money as we possibly can. And some of you are raising your hand right now thinking, actually, that sounds exactly like what I talked about all week long. That's exactly my plan. What is James' problem with planning? Well, his problem isn't with predicting the future or trying to provide for our family. What he's pointing out is that there was someone conspicuously absent from the planning process. Did you hear their plan? They said, we are going to move. And then we are going to set up shop. We are going to make a ton of cash because we have everything that we need. And James says, you didn't even pray about it? You didn't even consult God? You didn't let his word speak over it at all? You feel like you're totally in control? What is your life? You are but a mist. He's saying, guys, you're putting off all the important stuff. You're putting off all the purpose stuff. You're putting off all the God stuff and taking care of yourself right now. And so here's a question I'd love for you to answer at some point today. Maybe it's on the ride home. Maybe it's over lunch. I've been wrestling with it all week long. So when you consider your future plans, did they involve more comfort or purpose? I'm not even talking about the spreadsheet that you have laid out. I'm talking about your daydreams. When you start imagining that picture of the preferred future for the rest of your life, does it involve more personal comfort or does it involve more increased purpose? If your daydreams are anything like mine, they often include a few extra square feet, maybe a newer model of car, probably my toes in some tropical sand, maybe an extra zero at the end of my paycheck. But rarely when I'm dreaming about the future does it involve more challenge or difficulty. Rarely more impact on other people. Usually, if you're anything like me, I am the primary beneficiary of my daydreams. And what James is saying is that the danger with those few comfort decisions is that it's going to impact the way that we live. He's saying the longer that you and I think that we have an endless amount of tomorrows, we'll put off the important things. We'll put off the hard things, the meaningful things. Eventually we'll get to the God stuff, but not just yet. But did you notice how James describes this? He says, you are a mist that appears for a little while and then vanishes. Life is shorter than we think. According to a recent survey of the World Bank, the average American lifespan is 78.79 years old. Now, for some of us, you hear that and you think, man, those people are ancient. I've got forever. I'm good. And then for the rest of us, the older that we get, the younger that number sounds. And then for some of you, a very select few of you, you may remember your 78th birthday. You posted all about it on Facebook. Not Snapchat. You've never heard of Snapchat. But on Facebook, you celebrated your 78th birthday. You say, man, it is so much faster than you think. It's a mist. You know what's great about a mist is that it's here for a little while and then it's gone. Have you ever had company coming over to your apartment and you needed it to smell a lot better as quickly as possible? What did you do? You grabbed that air freshener and you sprayed it, and eventually the smell lingered, but the mist was gone. You ever been to the beach or to the lake and seen that morning mist just sitting over the water, and it doesn't feel like it's going to go anywhere until what happens? The sun comes up and burns it off, and it's like it never even existed. The point that James is making, he's not trying to bum us out. He's just trying to wake us up. Because what he knows and what you and I know, but we rarely acknowledge, is that the presumption of tomorrow erodes the urgency for today. That the longer that I think that I'll always have another chance, I'll always have another day, I can always have that conversation later, I will put off the hard things. And so reconciliation will be pondered, but it won't be pursued. Generosity will be considered, but it won't be extended. We'll delay decisions and encouragement will be withheld, but did you catch James' last line of chapter 4? He said, if anyone then knows the good they ought to do and doesn't do it, it is sin for them. He doesn't call it a bad decision. He doesn't call it a missed opportunity. He calls it sin. Now, usually when you and I are thinking about sin, we operate in the category of sins of commission. These are sins that we commit. So when you and I knew where the line was, we knew what God said was in bounds and out of bounds, but our desires drew us past those boundaries and we commit a sin. So often we think about the 10 Commandments, things like do not kill, do not steal, do not have adultery. Those are sins of commission. But here James is introducing us to a second category called sins of omission. This is when you and I know what we ought to do, but we fail to do it. It's when we know that we ought to extend that apology to that friend, but it's still a little awkward between us. It's when we actually want to be generous toward that cause or toward that initiative, but we're also a little scared about our financial future, so we withhold. It's when we fail to ever get involved or ever get plugged into ministry because we are waiting for a slower season of life that just never comes. James is trying to alert us to the reality that delaying the right thing is just as dangerous as doing the wrong thing. So once again, will you read out loud with me? Our Psalm 90, verse 12, read it off the screen. Here we go. Teach us to number our days, that we may gain a heart of wisdom. Life is shorter than we think. And then second thing we want to acknowledge today is that only a few things really matter. Out of all the things that clamor for our attention in this life, only a few things really matter. Have you ever attended a memorial service or a funeral for someone that you knew and you loved? If you're anything like me, for the first few moments, you sit there and you remember and you grieve and you celebrate their life. And then at some point, you start asking yourself, what's mine going to be like? Like who's going to show up? And what will they say? And will my kids laugh, or will they cry, or will they do both? At the end of it all, what will people say about me? Dr. Lydia Dugdale is an internal medical physician and medical ethicist at Columbia University. And she wrote a book called The Lost Art of Dying. And in her profession, she spent many end-of-life moments with her patients, and she accumulated her wisdom. And she's written this book to say, if you want it to go well at the end, here's what you need to do now. And she gives two pieces of advice. The first one she says is acknowledge finitude. Acknowledge that life is shorter than you think. Do what we've already done together, 78.79 years old. And then the second thing she says, if you want to end well, that you need to do now, this is from a medical perspective, not a uniquely Christian perspective. She tells you to build real community, like authentic friendships, meaningful experiences with other people, because a life well lived is a life lived in community. That's why here at Real Life we believe in groups so much, is because we were meant to live together. And so Dr. Dugdale, she encourages this exercise. She just says, imagine your deathbed. Imagine your last moments here on earth. Who do you want to be around you? Who would be there to encourage you? Who's there to comfort you? Who will point you to Jesus in that moment? And if you want them there at the end, then you're going to need to start now, because no one makes new friends on their deathbed. This picture here is a picture of me and my friend Chad. And Chad and I grew up together, elementary, middle school, high school. And one of the cool things as a pastor is that every once in a while, your friends and family ask you to do fun things for them. And so I got to officiate his wedding to his bride there. Her name is Maíra. She's from Sao Paulo, Brazil. She's the sweetest friend you'd ever want. And Chad is my friend with the coolest job. He's a Disney Imagineer. He makes roller coasters for a living. He built the Hong Kong ride, the Iron Man ride in Hong Kong. He built the Millennium Falcon in Orlando. Like, who gets to do that? It's the coolest job ever. And one day, Chad called me, and he said that the previous night, he had been in the emergency room for some stomach pain. Thought he had appendicitis or something like that. And he left the hospital with a diagnosis of stage 4 colon cancer. We were 34 years old. And I don't know if you know what to say to the people you love when they call with news like that, but I did not. And we cried on the phone, and I prayed for him, and then we hung up. And then in the following weeks, we gathered a bunch of people that we had gone to high school with for a weekly prayer call. And we would get updates on his diagnosis and his treatment, and we'd make some jokes, and then we would pray. And we would pray specifically, pray for their comfort and peace, and pray for wisdom for the doctors. And we prayed for full healing, and we prayed often, and we prayed hard, week after week, month after month. This chair here, it doesn't mean anything to you, but it means the world to me. It sits on the campus of Santa Barbara City College, and during Chad's treatment, he came to visit me and our family where we had started a church there in Santa Barbara on that campus. And so that morning, he came to service, and then we had lunch, and then we walked in town, and we were talking about the little things and the big things. And then in that very chair, he swiveled over, and he looked at me, and he said, "Hey, what would you do if you were me?" And I don't know if you've ever had someone battling cancer ask you how they ought to live their life, but I did not know what to say. I mean, I mumbled and I stumbled over my words, and eventually I looked at him and I said, "Man, I guess what I would do is make sure that all the people that I love know it. I just wouldn't leave anything to chance. I would say everything that I wanted to say." And he said, "That's a really good idea. I'm going to start with you." And I said, "Please do not, because I am not emotionally mature enough for what you are about to tell me." And like any good friend, he didn't listen to me. And he told me that he was proud of me. He told me that he loved me. I don't know if you've ever had anyone dying of cancer tell you how much they love you, but it's not a moment I'll ever forget. Chad passed away about 4 years ago, and I don't know why. I wish I had really clean and simple answers for you as to why certain people slip through our fingertips, but sometimes when people pass away from cancer, we use this terminology. I think it's just because we don't have better words for it, but we end up saying they lost their battle. And I'm here to tell you, my friend did not lose. Because for a weekly basis, he gathered people together that hadn't spoken in over a decade to focus on the challenges of someone else. And I'm telling you, even if it's for 10 minutes a week, you focusing on the struggles of someone else are really good for your soul. And he reminded us of the brevity of this life. And he reminded us not to hold too tightly to the ways of this world because, friends, life is shorter than we think. And only a few things really matter. So our final time together, will you read this verse out loud with me? Psalm 90, verse 12. Here we go. Teach us to number our days that we may gain a heart of wisdom. Well, in light of everything that we've acknowledged today, I got 3 questions for you. And if you're writing things down, I'd love for you to write it down. If you have your phone, you can snap a picture of all the questions. They're really, really simple. And here's my request, is that you answer one of them today. No matter who you are, I know you need to answer one of these with this limited time opportunity that we call life. And so I'm just asking you to choose one of them, grab onto one of them, take it with you today, and make sure you and God work this out together. Here's the first question I have for you. What do you need to say? What do you need to say? I don't know all your story, but I know you're human, and that means that you're in relationships, and relationships are complicated. And my wild guess is that there is something that you want to say to someone in your life, but you just haven't found the right time. You haven't found the right moment. And maybe this is your encouragement that today is your day. Maybe you need to say, I'm sorry. Sorry for what I did. Sorry for what I said. Sorry for the way I made you feel. And with those 2 powerful words, you could begin the road to reconciliation that your heart has longed for months and for years. Today is your day. You just need to say, I'm sorry. Or maybe you came in here today and you're carrying such a heavy burden that you have been carrying for years on end and no one knows. And the words that you need to say today are, I need help. Man, you were never meant to carry this struggle on your own. You were never meant to solve everything by yourself. And the reason that our family is so excited to join Real Life is because I know that when you say those words that you need help, you will be received with grace and with love and with empathy and with help. Or maybe you need to find someone today in your life and you just need to say the 3 most powerful words, I love you. Again, my guess is, because I got relationships just like you, there's probably someone in your life that you love very much and they don't know that that's true. And for absolutely $0, you can let them know and change the trajectory of their life. 1 phone call, 1 text. What do you need to say? Here's my second question for you. It's your other option. What do you need to stop? What do you need to stop? I know it's fun to kind of joke around about all the different kinds of waste of time that we have in our lives, but I also want to just understand and maybe acknowledge together that especially in the last 4 years, what I've noticed in my life and probably in yours is that we've developed some pretty bad habits of escaping into the screens that can fit into our hand instead of engaging with the people right in front of us. And the reason that I do it is because when I scroll Instagram for hours on end, it never makes me apologize. When I watch Netflix so long that eventually the prompt comes up that says, are you still watching? It never makes me mature. But you know who does? People. My friends and my family and relationships are hard and they're complicated. And so sometimes, honestly, it's just easier to escape than it is to engage. But if it is true that life is shorter than we think and that only a few things really matter, friends, maybe today is the day that we put the screen down and we look the people in the eye and recognize the gift that God has given us. Now, what do you need to say? What do you need to stop? And finally, here's the last one you get to choose from. What do you need to start? What do you need to start? 3 simple questions. What do you need to say? What do you need to stop? What do you need to start? It's possible that there's been this voice in your head all morning long, and it's been confirming the thing that you already knew, which was true, which is it's time. Like, it's time to jump into action. Maybe you've been coming around here for a while, and you've been sitting on the sidelines. You've been watching other people serve, watching other people use their gifts, and you know it is time to jump into action. And friends, I know that you can call me biased all you want, and that might be true, but if it's true that we have this one life on earth, I cannot imagine a better place to invest than the church of Jesus Christ. Man, is the church flawed? Does she have her warts and her bruises? Absolutely. It's because of people like me. People like you, people that fail and disappoint, but friends, when the church is doing what she is designed to do, it is the most beautiful thing that I've ever seen. It's where people from all kinds of walks of life and ethnicities and neighborhoods can gather and unify around the one thing that matters the most. It's where your generosity combined with my generosity enables us to have an impact that far outweighs anything that we could ever do on our own. It's where couples that are on the verge of giving up hope can find tools and help. It's where young people can come and not be called the church of tomorrow, but the church of today. It's where I met my wife. It's where we're raising our kids. It is what we have given our lives to, and I'm convinced that the church is the hope for the Santa Clarita Valley. It's the hope for the state of California. It's hope for the ends of the earth. And if you want to invest in the things of eternity and not just the things of today, there is no better place to start than the church of Jesus. It is time to start. Get in the game. But for some of you, it's not time to start participating or start leading. It's just time to decide. Man, you've been on the fence and you've been kind of waffling back and forth and you kind of want to believe and you kind of want to take that step, but you're just kind of waiting for the right moment. Today is the day. No more dragging our feet, no more hitting the snooze button on a life of commitment. Today is the day where you can say, I do believe. I believe Jesus is who he says he is. I believe he will do what he says he will do, and if that is you today, if you're ready to stop putting it off and make that decision, will you pray this prayer with me? Real life, let me pray for you. God, we are coming to you today with the humble acknowledgement that we have a limited opportunity in this life. And instead of dragging our feet or putting it off any longer, today is the day we are submitting to you. We want to receive the gift of grace you offer freely. We want to live a life of humility and service gladly. We're inviting you in to change what you need to change, heal what you need to heal, set free what has been locked up. We are committed to following you. In your Son's good name we pray. Amen.